How to detach from the outcome with people and situations. Detaching from the outcome is a key component of feminine energy. It's what allows you to draw things to you, to magnetize, to radiate like the flame to the moths, the sun to the planets, the flower to the honeybees. You draw them in because you are no longer clinging to them. You are no longer trying to manipulate and control the honeybees to come to you. You are simply detached, radiating. They come to you on their own, because they feel that magnetism, that feminine presence within you, and it is beautiful and compelling to the masculine core. So we're going to go into exactly how to do this, to be that queen, to have an amazing, incredible relationship with all people in your life, but especially a man, right now. So I'm Brody Boyd with Magnetize Your Man, and for over 20 years combined with my wife Antia, we've been helping thousands of successful women all over the world to get a loving, long-term, and committed relationship with a man they desire fast. So let's go ahead and dive into these powerful principles. Now, principle number 9 to detach from the outcome is to accept worst case scenarios, to be free of them. So oftentimes the reason why you're so attached to wanting somebody to like you, or to want to have a certain relationship with your guy, or to want things to go a certain way, to not be rejected, to not be alone, to not be hurt, it's because you haven't fully embraced the potential worst case scenario. Now, this is a powerful exercise you can do that's counterintuitive, where you actually close your eyes and you visualize. You may be doing this already, but there's going to be a key twist to it. You visualize the worst case scenario. Okay, so let's say what happens is that person says they no longer love you. They don't want to be with you anymore. They leave you, they reject you, everything falls apart, the family falls apart. You're left alone, you're left out in the cold, whatever that might be for you. Now, yes, that would be a horrible situation. It wouldn't be fun, likely. Now, there's power energetically, there's power in the process of actually visualizing that scenario, getting clear on what that scenario could be, the absolute worst that you can think of, and then coming to a place within yourself. This is where the twist comes. How can that be a good thing? How could that actually be a beautiful experience? What could be great about that? Or at the very least, how will things be okay in that situation? You will likely survive. You will likely be able to pick yourself up and start over again. You will likely be able to become a new person and a better person because of the lessons you've learned, because of the wisdom you now have, the experience, those scars that have healed and become reminders to you of maybe what to avoid or what not to do. But then also, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger emotionally, spiritually, mentally. So in that scenario, and let's say even death as a worst case scenario, there's many people who have been able to embrace the idea of things ending, of death and that concept, and being okay with it, being at peace with it, finding that acceptance that that is the natural way of life, that there's cycles of birth, death, growth, and that is a beautiful thing. That's what life is. That's what the universe is all about, and it was designed that way by God. And to be able to accept that, to understand it as a natural cycle, you can have freedom, so that when you are wondering if your guy is going to text you back, or wondering what you should text him, or what he's thinking about you, or if he likes you, now you have perspective on it. Now you have a deeper spiritual perspective, really, that everything's going to be okay. And if you need to reconnect with God in your own spiritual practice, or find some meditation practice or something where you can actually get to that point of accepting worst case scenarios, that you are going to survive. And here's another key. If you need evidence for this that will help you in creating this, look back to times in your life when things have gone sour, when things didn't go the way you wanted them to. However, you were okay. However, in a lot of ways, it was a good thing that that happened, that it saved you from more pain happening later on, or other bad scenarios that could have came from that situation had you not detached, had you not moved on, had it not ended. And so when you can find that evidence in your own life and other people's lives around you, maybe some of your heroes, maybe some of your friends and family, areas where they went through really hard struggles but came out of it actually as a better person, having a better life potentially in some areas, now you can give yourself evidence that, hey, you're going to be okay. If they can do it, you can do it too. And if you've done it in the past, you can do it again. The past does not equal the future, and you can create a beautiful future regardless of what has happened in your past or what may happen, because you are a resourceful human being. And it's never about the resources, it's about that resourcefulness that you can be adaptable and you will figure it out. So now you have a deeper perspective, and it's going to be much easier for you to simply let go of that outcome, to accept whatever happens is going to be okay. You will survive, and in fact, you will probably thrive. Now, the eighth powerful principle here, get the right numbers up, to detach from the outcome of people and situations, become more feminine, become more radiant within yourself, more attractive long-term, is to focus on what you can control. At the end of the day, that's all you can do. As a human being, you have your little bubble. Imagine a bubble around you. That is the world that you have influence over. That is what you can actually have some power to affect. And it's probably pretty small. It's probably smaller than you would like. You know, we see things happening on the news and we hear stories on social media and we say, oh, I wish I could have an effect on that. I wish I could change that, or I wish it wasn't that way. Which, if you keep wishing about those things and wanting things to be different, oftentimes you're just causing yourself to suffer because you can't change it. Some things like inevitability, such as the fact that people will die, you know, trees will die, nature moves on, nature goes in cycles, winter will come. No matter how bad you want it not to come and wish it wasn't winter, winter will come for all areas of the planet, unless you live on the equator, probably. But that still has its own seasons, right? Seasons will come, and it's inevitable. The more you're trying to cling on to controlling something that you can't control, you're just going to cause yourself endless suffering, which is actually what the Buddha said. He was famous for saying that attachment is the root of all suffering. And many religious texts have talked about this in various capacities. But that attachment to wanting the world to be a certain way, wanting things to be a certain way, and not having it because it's outside of your bubble is going to cause you to suffer. And it's going to cause you to try to control what you can't, which is going to cause you to be constantly in a state of anxiety and fear and masculine energy, trying to push, push, push. And it's going to be ultimately ineffective. So what's helpful here is to remind yourself of that bubble of influence, which is probably smaller than you would like. It involves yourself, it involves your living environment, your immediate environment, maybe some of your friends and family who are close to you. And even then, you don't have full control over it. They're not your slaves. They're not little robots that you can program on what they should think and what they should believe and who they should vote for and who they should be dating or whether they should leave a relationship or not. You can't control a lot of these things. It's out of your control. So focus on what you can control, which ultimately is your own thoughts, which control your own feelings and emotions and control your own behavior. That is the ultimate bubble that you have 100% control over for the most part, although that some spiritual scholars would debate that with free will choice and whatnot, predetermination. But you still have an ability within yourself to claim at least the thoughts you're thinking right now. Choose to think of something outrageous right now. Choose to think of a pink elephant, or choose to think of your favorite childhood memory or your favorite movie that you ever watched. That's your free will choice. That's you exercising your ability to choose. You chose something to think about in that moment. Even though I guided you there, you chose what it was. You chose to think about that thing. So to realize that is going to give you lots of power. And I give you this other powerful tool here, which is the serenity prayer, which I want you to remember. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's a very powerful prayer. I want you to remember this, especially for your relationships, especially if you're dating, when you're frustrated, when you're wanting to control him, when you're wanting him to change, when you're wanting him to do something for you, to commit to you, to fall in love with you, to pursue you, etc., to leave the other woman he's interested, whatever it might be. Remind yourself of this prayer. You cannot control him. You cannot change him. And in fact, the more you try to change and control him, the more you will probably push him away because you would be in masculine energy at that point rather than this, which will bring you feminine energy, feminine magnetism. So it's a very powerful principle. Now, before we get to our next principle, If you haven't yet, I highly recommend taking our free Magnetize Your Man quiz to get a loving, long-term, and committed relationship with a man you want fast, where you can really master these principles, get access to our Magnetic Feminine 90-day challenge, learn the principles of magnetic feminine polarity, magnetic feminine communication you could use in your relationship right away, and even get customized, personalized coaching around that by clicking the link in the description or comments below, or going to our website, magnetizeyourman.com, to get that now as well. Now, the next powerful principle to detach from the outcome with people and situations, become more magnetic, radiant, feminine, and have an amazing life as well, a much more amazing life, is to focus on cleaning up your side of the street. So in relationships, this goes back to the principle that you can't control the other person. And the more you try to control him, likely, the more he's going to pull away or argue or fight with you or shut down. Instead, what's more effective is for you to focus on cleaning up your side of the street, bringing the energy back to yourself, which is feminine, rather than him. Also to bring your energy back into your body, which is feminine, rather than up here in your mind. Focus on cleaning up your side of the street, meaning you're becoming the most magnetic, feminine, queenly woman you could be, reconnecting to your feminine core, which is exactly what we help you with. You are investing into yourself right now. You are working on cleaning up your side of the street right now just by getting this education, just by getting these cutting edge tools and techniques and principles, which I really acknowledge you for. Pat yourself on the back, because you are becoming a more queenly woman in that process. You are actually in your feminine right now because you are receiving my gifts. You are in the receiving mode, plus you are investing into yourself, plus your more internal focus. So it's all feminine energy, even right now, what you are doing, which is beautiful. So you're cleaning up your side of the street. A big way you can do this in relationships is to start becoming more respectful towards your man, because one of the biggest things that will ruin a relationship and that will cause a man to shut down, argue with you, or pull away is being disrespectful to him, or being in a masculine energy, trying to change him, trying to control him, trying to tell him what to do, trying to baby him, treat him like a child and being his mommy, trying to make him happy and meet his needs rather than focusing on your needs and making yourself happy in the relationship and asking for what you want and using feminine communication. So working on being more respectful and being more in your feminine in a relationship is a huge part of cleaning up your side of the street. How do you do this? Well, one easy technique is simply to apologize. Apologize when you've caught yourself being in masculine energy or being disrespectful to him. If you said something disrespectful or did something disrespectful that you became aware of, even if it happened like a week ago, you can say, "Hey babe, could I share something with you?" "Sure. I just want to share, I noticed that this thing I said to you yesterday when we were talking about your car, and I said it was, a bad choice that you made with buying that car. I realized that that was disrespectful of me, and I just wanted to apologize for that and say I'm sorry." That's it. You've cleaned your side of the street. You've owned it. You've caught yourself. You have the self-awareness. You caught the masculine behavior. You caught the disrespectful behavior. You acknowledged it. You shared it with him in an open and vulnerable way that made it about yourself rather than about him. And you apologized. So you gave it up to him, really. And he's going to respond however he does. But likely, he's going to feel much better about the situation and about you, because you're in your feminine energy, because you are working, and it shows him, you're working on becoming more feminine, more connected to your feminine core, your feminine instinct of who you really are, and being respectful towards him, which will inspire him to be in his masculine energy. And then the last piece of this is to use our 90-day challenge. So it may take a process of 90 days or more, potentially, to really shift your relationship depending on how long you've been with him. And so you want to give it a period of 90 days where you'll use what we teach you of magnetic feminine polarity, the principles and techniques, as well as magnetic feminine communication, and having deep and meaningful magnetic feminine conversations with him over time and seeing how things shift. Because likely your man, there's a couple possibilities. He may be a broken man. We don't know. He may not have very much care for you. We don't know. He may be a more feminine man. We don't know. He may not be used to being in his healthy masculine energy. We don't know. So it's going to take some time for him also to shift into becoming a healthy masculine man for you, showing you care, love, and devotion. So you want to use those tools, use those techniques that will give you to start inspiring him to be that man for you by you cleaning up your side street and being in your feminine energy, using respectful, vulnerable, feminine communication, using magnetic feminine polarity. And then we have to see how things shift over that period of time. As long as he's not a deeply broken man, likely your man is going to start shifting into his healthy masculine. He's going to love it. And you're going to get into this positive upward spiral in your relationship, similar to the love and respect cycle here, where you start showing him more feminine energy and respect, and then his natural response will be to start showing you more love and devotion. And you have this upward spiral, this beautiful upward spiral, rather than the opposite of that, which would be the downward spiral when you're in your masculine energy, disrespectful, and he becomes more unloving, more uncaring towards you, shutting down, pulling away potentially. And then you become even more unloving, and it creates this negative downward spiral. So we want to avoid that. Give it that period of 90 days, and we'll likely shift it to that positive spiral and get you the relationship that you desire fast. The sixth powerful principle here to detach from the outcome, become more magnetic, and have the relationship you desire is to learn to process your negative emotions and come back to love. This means whenever you have a negative emotion coming up, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually beautiful because it's part of your feminine energy. Your feminine core is like the weather. It's constantly changing. I lived in Hawaii for 10 months and it would be sunny one second. The next second it would be raining. The next second it would be a rainbow out. The next second it would be windy. The next second it would be really hot. So it's constantly changing, and that's what the feminine energy is like. It's this cyclical nature. It's the flow. It's even the chaos in some ways. And there's nothing wrong with the negative emotions. There's only negative behaviors that can come from that, ugly behaviors that could potentially come from that. And the way you can avoid that often to help you detach from the outcome is to process your negative emotions when they do come up. So if you're noticing fear, get yourself back into faith by clearing out the fear and actually doing a process we call an expression session is a really great way to get out of the fear or the anger or the anxiety. Go jump on your bed and start screaming into a pillow. Scream into the pillow, punch the pillow, kick your legs, or do it in your car. Scream. Go out in nature if you can. Scream, throw things. This was something I did after my first breakup that really helped me. But it's a great way to, in a healthy way, clear out negative energy from your system, negative emotions. Some people go to rage rooms, which are popular in some major cities, where you can actually pay to break things like a TV and other things and just go wild. And so whatever you choose to do it, whatever way you choose, maybe you go punch and you go exercise and that gets the energy out for you. It's a healthy way to get it processed for yourself. It could involve grief. It could involve crying, whatever wants to come out. Because also animals do this naturally. When an animal is chased by a cheetah and it escapes, you'll see this in nature videos. The animal will start shaking and shuddering as a way to move past the emotion, move past the trauma and get back on track. You can do this for yourself. And what happens then after you do it is you can come back to love. So after you've processed the negative emotion through your system without resisting it, you let yourself express it in a healthy way that doesn't do destruction to your relationship or to your life. Now you can start to come back to love. Fill yourself up with positive affirmations, positive feelings, visuals, love, such as I'm amazing, I'm a queen, I love myself, I'm beautiful, I'm going to have an amazing life. Men love me, people love me, I have incredible relationships, the world is abundant. As Einstein said, the world is a friendly place. So fill yourself up with positivity, positive emotions, feelings, visuals, stories, even some great music that you love, maybe a fun movie, a fun music video. And then you'll find yourself being much more reset and back to detachment from the outcome, where you can then commit back to living your life, being the best woman you can be, and not caring where the cards fall as much, being more in your feminine. The cup is more full at that point. It has been emptied out and refilled, and you are a new woman in that moment. The fifth powerful principle here to detach from the outcome with people and situations and create an incredible life is to let your old self die so that you can be on bonus time. And this is something that happened with me after my first relationship. Is I got to such a low point where I was starting to have suicidal thoughts. I was severely depressed after a 2.5-year relationship ended. And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, this can't go on. I am feeling just so distraught here and sad, anxious, feelings of shame and guilt were coming up. And then luckily, I had this insight when I was at my darkest moment. And I said, you know what? What if I was to kill myself? If I was to kill myself, That would be it. It would be over. Okay, well that was a nice journey. That was it, I guess. But what if I was, instead of not doing that, because I didn't really have any real intention of doing that, but I was using this as an experiment for myself, a thought experiment. Instead of doing that, let's imagine that I did it, but then I was reborn the next day magically, and I had a new life. And essentially, it was a bonus. It was like in a video game, because I grew up playing a lot of video games. And when you're playing Super Mario or any other video game like this, when the character dies, what happens? You respawn, you get a new try, you get a new life, oftentimes, and you get to go again, try it again. And so I view this as a bonus. It's a bonus time. And the beauty of this process is you could do it at any time in your life. If you're distraught because a relationship isn't working out, or a breakup, or your life situation is just really tough and you're like, man, I don't know how much longer I can continue with this. Well, let's say you were to imagine that the slate was cleared. You hit the reset button one night, and all of a sudden you woke up the next day, metaphorically, you hit the reset button in your own mind, and then the next day you were born again. You were fresh. You were new. And that is what it means to be like a born again Christian, is you're basically saying, my old self is gone, my old self is dead, and I am reborn newly in Jesus Christ. That would be the process that a Christian goes through in having a fresh start, getting bonus time, getting a chance to live a completely different life if you choose. And you can do this metaphorically for yourself at any time. You could give yourself your own baptism in your shower. When you're taking a shower in the morning, imagine you're being baptized, you're being reborn, you're going through the birth canal, and you're being resurrected as the new you. And you get to go about this new day, having a new life, being a new self. And what do you want to do with this time? Anything is possible now, because it's all a bonus anyways. Maybe you're not going to worry so much about whether he's cheating on you or not, or whether he's going to get back to your text, or whether he's even the right guy for you. Maybe there's more important things that you're going to worry about that day or think about. And you're just going to be letting go more of some of those things that were bothering you, so that you can have a better perspective and actually make empowered decisions on what the next move is for you. Hopefully, using what we're teaching you here, getting you on track, reconnected to your feminine core, to be magnetizing people to you, magnetizing situations to you, and having a completely new life. So it's a beautiful process, and one that I highly recommend going through yourself, and you can do it at any time, which is the most beautiful thing about it. The fourth powerful principle here to detach from the outcome, create incredible relationships and life for yourself, is to practice enjoying open loops and uncertainty. Now, one of the reasons why anxious attachment styles have such a hard time in relationships is because they constantly need this sense of closure. I need to know, I need certainty that this person loves me. I need to know that I'm not going to be abandoned. I need to have absolute clarity that I am lovable and that I am worthy and that I am good enough, because they had a wound in their childhood where they were abandoned, where they weren't giving the love that they craved, where affection was inconsistent. And so they developed a story that life isn't safe, that people leave you, you can be abandoned, you can be hurt at any time. And the response of that in their system is to cling to certainty. I need to know, I need to have that absolute clarity that this person loves me and they'll never leave me. I need that commitment. I need to know that they're available for me at any time. I need to know that they love me, ultimately, deep down. And so you can get caught in that cycle if you've had any of those traumatic experiences, which we all have in some form in your childhood. You can get caught in these cycles of clinging and being desperate for that certainty that ultimately you'll never get, because human beings are flawed inherently, and they're not able to give you perfect certainty, because they're going to have their own issues come up. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to say things that are hurtful to you, accidentally even. And that's going to cause you to question whether they love you or not. So you have to have some grace for other people. And one way you can practice this for yourself is becoming okay with the idea of uncertainty. What if uncertainty was a beautiful thing? Now, this is helping you to become a more secure attachment style if this has been an issue for you, and detach from the outcome. What if certainty was a gift? Uncertainty. What if uncertainty was a gift? That there was beauty actually in not knowing the outcome. not knowing if this person was going to do this or that, or if they really loved you or if not. That there was actually excitement in that. There was an adventure in that. There was this experience of like you're surfing. You're surfing out in the ocean. You don't know when the next wave is going to come. You don't know how great of a wave it's going to be. You don't know how long you're going to be able to ride that wave. Or if you're going on a hike out in nature, you don't know exactly what you're going to see when you're on that hike, what kind of animals are going to be out there, what the weather's going to be like or change to while you're there, or other people you might meet. But that's part of the fun of going on a hike. That's part of the fun of going on any adventure, any travel, any trip, any vacation. So what if your life became like that? Your life became an unplanned vacation where you just showed up. You know, I did this when I moved to Hawaii. Like, I really didn't have a plan. I had a loft that I was staying in Maui for $175 a month. It was a very cheap and very interesting scenario. It essentially was a commune that I found out later. My friend had told me about it, and he had a friend who owned this house, and apparently there was like 15 other people living there. And it was an adventure for me because I was only like 20, 21 at the time. Maybe it was a little older, 22 or 23. And it was total adventure for me. I loved it. And even though I ended up getting kicked out of the house and I ended up having to find a new job and go to a different part of the island, that was part of the excitement of it. That was part of the thrill for me. So I actually loved that uncertainty at that stage in my life. And I still do to some extent. Although, yes, given I am more of a secure attachment style than my wife. But I used to love that uncertainty, and I would really, in some ways, even seek that out. So what would that be for you? What are some opportunities you can embrace, some experiences you can go on where you don't have the outcome you want? You don't know what the outcome's going to be exactly. There's uncertainty, there's questions, there's a sense of adventure, of excitement and the unknown, and then that's the benefit of it. That's actually the reason why it's so great. Now, without taking this to extreme, because then you could become the type of person who's always seeking the unknown, who's getting into very tricky situations, or only dating guys who are non-committal and all over the place and changing also often. But we want to add some of that in and find the beauty of the uncertainty. Now, here's a great exercise you can do if you really want to practice this. So when you're reading a great book or when you're watching a great movie, what does your brain naturally want to do? Or a show, a TV show. You want to see what happens next, right? You want to see how the story ends. So if you want to practice living in the uncertainty and embracing open loops and embracing uncertainty, try ending a story or try ending a show or ending a movie, and I know you can imagine where this is going, before the end, and be okay with that. Like, never finish it. So find a great show. Even just try this on YouTube. Like, watch a little YouTube short or like a video or like a skit or something, like a short film. Here's a good one. Find a short film on YouTube, like 15 minutes long. And I want you to find one that has a lot of views. That's probably a popular one. And then just watch half of it. Just watch half of it and then walk away and never finish it the rest of your life. And the beauty of this is that you're going to be okay. You're training yourself to be okay with an open loop. That it's okay not to know how the story ends. Because oftentimes we have this all the time in life. We don't know how the story ends. We don't get that closure that we wanted with that last relationship. We don't know what that person meant when they said this thing to us. And then we never got to finish that conversation because we never saw them again, or it was just that one interaction. So these open loops happen all the time in your life and in your relationships. And if you can embrace being more okay with those open loops and okay with the uncertainty, even find excitement in that, you're going to be much more likely to detach from the outcome and be more in your feminine, be more open and available to all the experiences that life has for you. The third powerful principle here is to practice forgiveness and gratitude. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to somebody else. It's a gift you give to yourself. Because when you are holding on to resentment or anger towards somebody, it is like drinking poison and hoping that the other person is going to die. You're actually poisoning yourself because the anger lives inside of you. It's not inside of them. The hurt, the pain, the resentment, it's inside of you, doing damage inside of you. Plus, when you're holding on to resentment or even grief or longing for another person, towards another person, you have an energetic tie towards that person. There's like a string of energy. You can imagine cords of energy between you and them that's keeping you tied to that person. And whenever you're tied to anything, it's like an anchor. It's like an anchor on the boat that's causing you not be able to really move anywhere else. You can't go explore the ocean. You can't go to other harbors. You can't go visit Maui or Oahu or Kauai. You are stuck in Washington or Oregon, which are great, but you're not able to see the world. You're stuck where you are. So what if you were to cut those energetic ties so that you can be free? You could always come back to them. You can always still have them in your life, but you're not attached. You're not stuck to them with those energetic ties. So forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself to be able to be free, to move on. And this is one of the biggest messages that Jesus had for humanity, is the power of forgiveness. Just like he was asking his father, God, to forgive the humans who killed him because they did not know what they did. They know not what they do. Father, forgive them. It was super powerful, and it was a beautiful message that is the power of freedom, allowing yourself to then live a full life because you are no longer clinging to that anger, clinging to that resentment. I actually have a great quote here. Let me pull this up. So it says, then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? And Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. So what Jesus is saying here is there's also an unlimited amount of times that you can potentially forgive someone, and that you should potentially forgive someone. Oftentimes it'll take 77 times to fully forgive your father, to fully forgive your mother, to fully forgive your ex, to fully forgive that person who hurt you or traumatized you, for you to finally be free to move on. And so it's a practice. It's a daily practice to continue forgiveness. And that's what also leads us to the other powerful principle related to this here, which is gratitude. After you have forgiven, you can then find gratitude even for that person or for the experience, for the lesson that you learned, so that you don't get into a situation like that in the future, so that you can help others potentially avoid those situations in the future, or become better parents for their kids, or better romantic partners for their significant others. So you can often find gifts within the pain, just like coal. When coal is smashed, when it is ground down and has enough pressure on it, what eventually happens is the coal becomes a beautiful diamond. And that diamond is the treasure that can be available to you from the pain that you may have experienced. And so to find the gratitude in those situations, and also to find the gratitude in your life in general, is another way to inspire yourself into a higher vibration, inspire yourself into abundance, and be able to detach from the outcomes. Not be clinging then so much towards people, towards certain situations, towards what you think you want or you need to be happy, because you're finding the gratitude within. You're finding the freedom and the gratitude within yourself, within your spiritual being, so that you can live your best life, regardless of whether they give you what you think you need or want or not, because you're finding that treasure within yourself first. The second powerful principle here is to recognize the root of your attachment. So if you have an anxious or an insecure attachment style, oftentimes it's easy to blame the other person for not giving you what you need, for not giving you the communication that you want, the security that you want, the love that you want, the attention that you want, the commitment that you want. And you can be very focused on that person, which again is masculine energy. Rather than, if you focus back in on yourself and where's that attachment coming from, why are you getting so upset that they're not giving you that thing, or that they're not doing what you want them to do, or something that they did or said triggered you? You can often find the root of that within your childhood, within something that your father said to you, your mother said to you, or didn't say to you, or something they did or didn't do to you. And the beauty of this is it can help you to depersonalize the situation, where you might be so focused on that guy's an asshole, he's a narcissist, he doesn't know how to treat a woman, rather than, oh, I realized I'm being so upset about this because it's reminding me of that situation when I was young where I was abandoned. Or I'm getting so upset at him because he's reminding me of my father, who was a bit abusive, maybe a bit had some narcissistic traits, or my mother, or my grandfather, or my uncle, or my first childhood friend, or my first romantic partner, or my ex-husband, or my ex-boyfriend. So to find where the root of those actual feelings are coming from, so that way you can deal with the root, not with the fruit. The fruit is coming from the root. The fruit is your anger. The fruit is the frustration you may be feeling towards that person. But in order to create different fruit, we have to create different root, create a different root, find a different root, and heal the root inside of you. So to look at it and to look at where's the origin of these feelings, where's the origins of these thoughts and these triggers, and then to work on healing those things through some of the tools I've already given you here, such as forgiveness, gratitude, practicing uncertainty, clearing negative emotions in a healthy way, accepting worst case scenarios, focusing on what you can control. So the key here is to depersonalize situations. Miguel Ruiz, the book, The Four Agreements, one of the four agreements was do not take anything personally. So you can avoid taking things personally and instead, and not making it about the other person, instead healing the root inside that's causing you to get triggered by that person. Now, there's a psychological principle called projection, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but projection is whenever we see something that we don't like in another person, it's often because we have that part that we don't like within ourselves somewhere, whether that's because it's part of your personality or because it's a childhood memory or a trauma of some kind. And so when you could recognize that, you can stop the projection and you can see, oh, the reason I'm so upset at this person is not actually because of what they said. My response is because of what that's reminding me of within myself, that I also can be a bitch, or that I also can be abandoning people or rejecting people, or I can be hurtful, or I also have potentially narcissistic traits, or I have attachment wounds, or I am also whatever it is, whatever thing you are upset about within the other person, there's a root inside of you, likely, that if we can find and we can heal that, we can first embrace it, which we talked about before about acceptance. When you can first embrace it and recognize it within yourself, it starts to lose its charge. And now you can interact with people as they are. You may get still upset about something they say, and you can still address those hurtful things and set boundaries and do what you need to do. But you're not getting overly emotional about it. You're not getting overly triggered where it almost doesn't even make sense why you would get so upset or so sad because of what they said when it wasn't that bad, but because of the root wasn't healed. So we have to recognize that. We have to understand these principles so that you can be free of these things. You can heal within in a deep way, and then you can move forward and actually be detached from the outcome and have a beautiful life where you're free emotionally to respond in an appropriate way. Now, the last powerful principle here is to view all interactions as opportunities for practice. So if you're still finding yourself being attached to the outcome, which I'd be surprised by if you've really practiced and used, speaking of practice, all of the principles here that I've given you today, all these techniques and tools, then change your overall mindset to this whole process. Because what we're doing here is we're committing to the process, but detaching from the outcome. And in order to commit to the process fully, it can be very helpful to see it as practice. Just like when you're learning a new sport, when you're learning a new dance, when you're learning a new language, you're not beating yourself up for not doing it perfectly or not getting the perfect result that you want every time. Instead, you're saying it like, I'm learning, I'm practicing, I'm experimenting here. You can see your whole life as this. Your whole life can be a game. Your whole life can be an experiment. Your whole life can be learning. And everything that happens with your man, with your relationship, with you, it's just feedback. It's just data. It's just you getting information to realize, oh, maybe that wasn't the best approach, or maybe I should try it differently this time, or that was an interesting response. I wonder why that happened. How can I recreate that? So you have more of a playful mindset, which can bring even fun into the experience of your dating, of your relationships, of your life. When you see it as similar to that concept I gave you earlier, bonus time, when you see it just simply as bonus time, as fun time, as free time, to just practice and experiment and notice and observe what the results are. Because you can still want things without being attached to those things. You can still have things in your life without being overly attached to those things. And this is how you can do it, is by seeing your life as really like a game, like a practice, like just as a fun experiment that you get to try all kinds of different things. You can put on different hats. You can wear different clothes. Try out different sides of your personality when you next go on a date. reconnect to your feminine core, take a new course, do a new program, get coaching, learn some new principles and actually implement them. Try some of the scripts that I give you here and in our trainings so that you can just observe how they go and say, wow, actually that worked really well. I'm going to keep doing that. That was fun. Or, oh, that didn't work so well. I wonder why. Or maybe I could try it this way next time. Or maybe I'll use this next date that I go on or this next time that I see my boyfriend or my husband as a way to practice more vulnerability or to practice having fun more or to practice what you're learning here, detaching from the outcome and committing to the process and just seeing it as practice. So it's a powerful mindset shift that will allow you to have a much lighter approach to your life, to your relationships, so that not everything is life or death. Not everything is he loves me not. We're going to get married or we're ending this relationship. You'll get into a lot more black and white thinking with a man in your life, with your relationship, when you're seeing it as, when you're overly attached to the outcome and you're seeing it as life or death rather than it's just fun. It's just practice. It's just experimentation. And I get to try out these different things. And if I don't like the results, I can change my approach or I can set a boundary. I can get myself out of this. So you still have the freedom of choice to do whatever you need to do. But your overall approach is more of a playful, more of a childlike approach towards life and towards your relationships that'll cause you to be more emotionally free and not clinging to have a specific outcome and being in masculine energy and trying to control him and trying to manipulate him to get what you want. Instead, you're able to just simply experiment and practice with some of the things you're learning here, for example, magnetic feminine communication, magnetic feminine polarity that we'll teach you more in our advanced courses in our coaching, and see what the results are. See how it shifts your life. And you'll likely find, as many of the women who engage in these principles and techniques with our programs find, your life starts to become much more enjoyable, much better, much easier. And why wouldn't you want that? And this is the final question I'll pose to you is, what if your life could be simple, fun, and easy? What if your dating and relationships could be simple, fun, and easy rather than complicated, complex, challenging, frustrating, hard, etc.? We don't want that anymore. We want to embrace and help you to embrace a life that can be simple, fun, and easy, because that means you are likely then detached from the outcome, committed to the process, and living from your feminine core. That's what we want to create for you. So hope this was helpful. And I'm going to go ahead and start answering some questions here that have come into the chat. And so if you have any questions, go ahead and start posting them now. Comments, questions around anything that we learned today or in your relationship or dating currently. So Stay Well said, abundant positivity, great reminders with many thanks. You're welcome. Purple said, good evening. Sharon said, oh, wow. Sharon said, life is evolution, always evolving, always changing. I'm okay with being alone forever. Yeah, it's about embracing that possibility and finding beauty in that if that were to happen, so that you're no longer resisting against it. Because Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. So if you're constantly resisting this idea of, oh, I can't be alone, or I can't be with this pain that I'm having, or this frustrating situation, like I can't let that happen again. I can't get hurt again. I can't let a man control me again, or I can't let a man disrespect me again or be uncaring again. Like anything that you're pushing against, you're likely going to create more of that in your life because you're pushing against it, which means, like we talked about earlier, there's an energetic tie you have to that thing. You're either projecting or you are holding on to some resentment from the past. And that's causing you to energetically be bringing it back into your experience and recreating those experiences because you still haven't forgiven and you still haven't moved on and become free of those people, those energies, or those situations. So instead, to embrace those things that you're resisting against, embrace it and say, okay, if I was to be alone forever, it would be okay. I would be okay. And in fact, I'd probably find some things to really enjoy about that. I'd probably find some experiences I could really love about that. And I could have a great life and it would be beautiful. And then what happens is you can still choose not to be alone, but now you no longer have this pushing against energy, this fear of it that's causing you to then get into attachment, get into clinging on to a certain person, a certain type of relationship, a certain type of situation that you want with your guy or with your boyfriend, maybe commitment, marriage, etc. You can have it without being attached to it because now you're free and it's a much more powerful way of living And so you're on the right track, Sharon, is you are evolving here, you are changing, and you're learning to embrace all those parts of yourself and all those potential worst case scenarios you might have been pushing against in the past, so that you actually can have what you want and be free of that those negative ties. So Purple said, I was asked to date a week ago, and the gentleman is checking his schedule, waiting to hear back regarding a day be set for dinner. Yeah, that's great. Now, you don't have to be just passive. When you use what we teach you here, you're not just sitting alone in your room, speaking of being alone, waiting for a man to show up at your doorstep, or waiting for a man to text you and to ask you out or to set a date. So there's an old metaphor back in the Victorian age, or maybe before that or after that, where women would drop a handkerchief. And you were probably familiar with this. Women would drop a handkerchief as a way to show a man that they were interested. They would drop the handkerchief. The man who they were interested in would see them drop the handkerchief, and he would go up and pick up the handkerchief. Speaking of giving and using masculine energy, being her hero, he would pick up the handkerchief and give it to her, and that would often spark a conversation, and it would potentially spark him pursuing her, starting a relationship, starting to ask her out and go on dates, because it was her signal, and it was the socially acceptable signal back then, to show a man that you were interested without being too forward and also not being too passive, where a man didn't know if you were really interested or not. And so the modern equivalent of that is where you can still signal. You're like a flower opening up her petals and letting her beautiful scent out, and the visuals towards the world, and the honeybees can smell that, and they can see it, and they can say like, oh, I want to go to that flower. That flower seems interesting. And you can do this with magnetic feminine communication. So as long as you're using feminine communication, you could still be proactive. You can still reach out. You can still signal to a man your interest, or asking for what you need, asking for help. Just like a woman is dropping her handkerchief, she's essentially asking a man for help and saying, could you pick up my handkerchief? I dropped it. Oh no, I dropped my handkerchief again. Who's going to help me? Who can help me with this? I'm so distraught. And so you can ask a man for clarity, and you can say, hey, hope you're having a great week, or hope you're having a great day. Just want to check in. I haven't heard yet if what time we may be meeting this week, and was just curious if I can get some clarity about that, as an example. Or you can just say, hey, I was making some plans for this weekend and just curious what time you had in mind that you'd like us to meet. So you're just asking for permission. You're asking for what you want, what you need, which is more clarity, which you're also showing that you value yourself, because a queen is not just going to be passive, and she's also not going to be a bitch and just yell at him and tell him that she's she's no longer available for this time because I didn't hear back from you, and so you're lost, mister. No, you're being gentle, but you're also being high value. You're communicating that you have a need and you want help with it. So you're asking for clarity. That's totally fine, as long as you're doing so respectfully and vulnerably and asking for what you want and need. Then he can give that to you, and you want to be detached from the outcome, because he may not respond back, he may not give you what you want, but then that's going to reveal what kind of man he is, so that you can move on and not waste any more time with a man who's either deeply broken or just has no level of care for you. So that's the process of how you would handle that, Purple. Hope that helps. Purple Yin. Roller said, hello, everyone from Las Vegas. Thanks for tuning in, Roller. Glad you're here. And Trista said, how should we view men who live in uncertainty? Are they in their masculine energy? Nothing about that makes me feel safe in a relationship. Yeah, so actually, no. So a man who lives in uncertainty, who is flying by the seat of his pants and not really planning anything for the future, not committing to anything, that's actually feminine energy. Feminine energy is about more of uncertainty and the openness and the chaos. Masculine energy is about providing certainty, providing clarity, providing plans and direction, just like in a dance. In a dance, you as the follow, you're available, you're receptive, you're open, you're in the uncertainty, wherever he wants to lead you. If he wants to twirl you, if he wants to take you over here, if he wants to increase the tempo, if he wants to dip you, you're in the openness and uncertainty. That's the feminine role. That's the feminine energy. Now, the masculine is providing the certainty. He's providing the structure and the clarity and the plans and the path. So It's his job, if he's a healthy man, to lead you, to guide you, to make decisions. Where is he going to lead you? When is he going to dip you? Where is he going to, is he looking out for you? Is he protecting you? How long is he going to be dancing with you for? What kind of pace and tempo is he going to keep? So that's his role. And if a man isn't providing that certainty, there's a degree of it where some certainty he can't provide you. He can't tell you about everything that's going to happen for the next 50 years because he doesn't know about that. He doesn't know what's going to be the world's going to be like at that time. But he can likely give you certainty for what time you're going to be meeting on Saturday. He can give you certainty for his availability to talk with you on the phone and to help solve a problem for you, or to listen to your feelings, or to show love for you in some way, to show physical affection, etc. If you ask him for a hug, there's a lot of things he can provide you and give you certainty on if he's a healthy masculine man, if he's not broken. And so a lot of these guys who are living in uncertainty, they are more feminine men. They're probably broken men, a lot of them too. The reason they are more feminine, the reason they don't have certainty in their lives, or they're not able to provide certainty, is because they have some trauma. They were maybe abused as a child or overly controlled by their parents, or they don't believe love is safe or commitment is safe, or that they were hurt and abused in a past relationship or controlled by their ex. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. All that matters at the end of the day is a man showing care for your heart, or is he not showing care for your heart? If he is showing care for your heart, that's great. If he's not showing care for your heart, it's probably because he's a broken man, he's overly feminine, or he doesn't have enough care for you. But it's better you find that out sooner or later, because if he is a broken man, which you will know when you use our 90-day challenge, it'll become more apparent what kind of man you're dealing with, and he'll either shift to having a great relationship together with him, and he'll devote himself to you and love and obsess over you, or he will flatline or even drop out because he's just not able to give you that. He's not able to be a hero for you for whatever reason, and it's better you find that out now rather than later and waste more time. So that's the situation with that, Trista. I hope that helps. And yeah, you can still share your feelings. Of course, you can use magnetic feminine communication to share your feelings of uncertainty or confusion or anxiety, because again, there's no ugly emotions, and it's okay to have feelings of anxiety or fear come up occasionally, and uncertainty, and to want certainty and to ask for that from your man. But you have to do so in the right way. You have to have a magnetic feminine conversation that we'll help you with, and we'll teach you exactly how to do that in your specific situation. And it'll be a series of these conversations, likely, especially when you're using everything else we'll teach you, so that he can understand what you're feeling and he can make it better. He can help you being your hero rather than being a villain or being a passive observer in the movie that is your life. Like, we want him to be the main star. We want him to be your knight in shining armor, and he will become that when you become the princess, likely, unless he's a broken man. So Trissa all said, my parents wouldn't like a man for me or my sister who didn't have a foundation built. Yeah, likely for the same reasons. I totally get that as a parent. And if I were you, Trista, I also wouldn't want a man like that in my life, because that's not providing a lot of stability and a lot of structure to know that I'm safe. Like you said, safety is a huge desire of the feminine, and a masculine man needs to provide his woman with that feeling of safety. Otherwise, she's going to feel like a boat without a rudder, or a ship without a harbor, or a bird without a nest. She's going to feel lost, and she's going to feel unstable. And that's when women oftentimes will get chaotic, and they potentially also will become abusive, because they're trying to get their man to please just give me that certainty. Be a man up, get some structure around here. And so women will often lash out at their man. They'll become disrespectful, which will actually push him more into his feminine often, or make him shut down even more. So you don't want to go down that path. You want to use what we'll teach you, magnetic feminine polarity, magnetic feminine communication, and the 90-day challenge, that will then shift him into being a hero for you, being a healthy masculine man, as long as he's not deeply broken. And then you'll have a great relationship. And then you also attract more men like that into your life. You'll attract healthy masculinity into your life when you're being in your healthy feminine, because the law of polarity, which states that opposite energies attract. So healthy feminine energy is going to attract healthy masculine energy. And you're going to attract that from men all around you in your life, especially from your man, your romantic partner, when you are like that. Amy said, awesome content. Glad you're enjoying it, Amy. JJ said, my boyfriend recently told me last fall that he wasn't sure if he was open to marriage, saying that it wasn't me, but he thought he had some unprocessed issues. Yet I don't see him getting counseling on this. Yeah, and it's good that you're not giving him counseling yourself, because you don't want to be his therapist, you don't want to be his mommy. He has to figure that out on his own, because again, all that matters at the end of the day is he showing care for your heart, or is he not showing care for your heart? And that's not your job to fix him. You can share the problem. The feminine energy is about sharing problems. Masculine energy is about solving the problems. So you can share the problem, but he has to solve it. He has to figure it out for himself as a man, and you got to trust him to figure it out. And if he doesn't change, then there's not much you can do. If he doesn't change, then he's probably a broken man. But you want to give it some time. You want to use what we'll teach you and use the 90-day challenge so that he can shift into being a healthy man, and that he wants to do it on his own. He wants to become that healthy masculine man for you and commit to you and give you the marriage or commitment or love that you want, because he wants to make you happy. And if he has issues that are blocking him from that, then he needs to figure that out. Now, of course, you want to share these things in the right way. So when you're talking to him about your desire for love or commitment or security or safety, like Trista was mentioning, you got to do so in the right way, because otherwise it's very easy to communicate these things in a way that feels like you're trying to control him, you're trying to change him, or you're trying to tell him what to do, or you're trying to be his mommy. And we don't want to do that, because again, that's fundamentally disrespectful masculine behavior that's going to push him away, cause him to shut down, or cause him to fight you. So you got to be open, you got to be vulnerable, you got to be respectful when you share these things. Use our magnetic feminine communication formula that we'll give you. And then he's likely going to really understand the problem, and he's going to empathize with you, empathize with your heart, because he's feeling your raw, open vulnerability. And then he's going to want to shift on his own. He's like, I don't know, whatever I have to overcome, I'm going to do it because I want to make you happy. I want to give you what you want, which is security or marriage or commitment or love in different forms. And that's his job to figure that out. And he will likely, when you inspire that masculine energy within him, because of who you're being, because you're reconnecting to your true feminine core, your feminine magnetism that naturally inspires that within him. So hope that helps, JJ, give you some perspective on that. And then Mighty One said, can you address how to find yourself after taking care of others' needs for a long time? Yeah, the first thing you need to do is you need to forgive yourself. We talked about forgiveness and Jesus and how important that is. You have to forgive yourself, because otherwise you're going to be still holding on to that old version of you and saying like, why was I like that? Why was I so giving and nobody respected me and nobody gave back to me, and now here I am with nothing, and they're all happy living their best lives, and I'm single and alone and miserable. I gave everything to them and nobody even is saying thank you to me. So then you have this resentment towards them or towards yourself, and that's going to keep you in that spot because you're energetically tied to that old past history and that old version of yourself. So the first thing you need to do is forgive yourself 77 times if you need to. Forgive yourself and say you were doing the best you knew how with the information you had at the time. You didn't have our trainings, likely. You didn't have our programs, our coaching. So you didn't know a lot of these things. And you thought that being feminine meant doing things for other people and making them happy and nurturing them and helping them, when actually that is masculine energy. Masculine energy is about giving. Feminine energy is about receiving. And so if you are giving to others, sacrificing yourself to make them happy, even your children, even your husband, even your family, your parents, you're still in the masculine role. You're providing for them. You're being the hero for them. And they're just receiving. You're putting them into their feminine, which is okay because naturally children are dependent. They need parents. They need somebody who takes care of them and looks after them. Your man is not a child. Hopefully you weren't treating him like a child too, but it sounds like that was, because that's a very common situation. So don't beat yourself up about it. Again, forgive yourself. You didn't know these principles back then. And then forgive them. That's the next step. 77 times if you have to. Forgive them for doing the best they knew how, that they didn't know these principles, and they just like, well, you're offering it, so of course I'll just receive. If you want to do all these things for us, if you want to just cook for me all the time and wash my socks and handle the bills and pay for dinners and solve problems for me and be my coach and my therapist and my mommy. Like, well, it feels good. It feels fine. Like, if a man is more in his feminine, or if he's a broken man, he's just going to let you keep giving to him. He's just going to receive because he doesn't know any better way for himself. Just like you didn't know any better way for yourself, he didn't know a better way for himself. He just thought, oh, that's just how things are. You know, the wife is giving to the husband. The wife is, her duty is to just make me happy. And I'm just going to receive that. And I don't have to do anything for her because that's her duty. You know, whatever the mindset might have been, you got to forgive him for that too, because he was just doing the best he knew how, and also partly because of your actions. And accept him for that, or forgive him for that, or forgive the other people in your life for that, and let it go. Let it go. Move on. It's okay. It was what it was. You take the lessons now, because there is no failure as long as you got the lessons, as long as you got the wisdom, which you have now. The wisdom is, don't do that again. Stop it. Stop the madness. If you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And then you can be a new woman now. You're reborn. You're a born-again feminine creature. And you get rebaptized in receiving. So now you're going to allow men to do things for you. You're going to allow people to help you, and you're going to ask for help. So that's how you can start to shift this for yourself moving forward, is returning back to your feminine core that you've had ever since you were born. Because we're not teaching you how to change who you are here. We're not changing anything about you except bringing you back to who you truly are at your core. That's why we're not teaching you how to play games or how to be somebody you're not, because this is actually who you are. At your core, every woman has a feminine core deep inside. It was there the moment you were born, the moment you were conceived, really. God stitched you together that way perfectly. And that is who you are at your core. And we're helping you come back to that, where you can receive. You can have people wanting to help you, wanting to solve your problems, wanting to give to you and make you happy and anticipate your needs. That's what it feels like to be in the feminine energy. And how do you inspire that? Well, you inspire that through everything that we're teaching you here, using all the principles we'll give you of magnetic feminine polarity and the techniques and the habits and the processes, and also magnetic feminine communication and the scripts and the formulas that we have for that, how to share things respectfully, because there are some guidelines we want to give you for how to do this properly, because otherwise you'll go back into old habits and actually still end up pushing people away or being in your masculine behavior in a subtle way. And then you can receive, and you can have people giving to you, and you can make those requests for what you want and ask for help and ask for advice and ask for tips. And men will want to provide that for you, and other people in your life will want to provide that for you because of who you're being. Not because of what you're doing, but because of who you're being. Because being is feminine, doing is masculine. Anytime you're thinking, what do I have to do next? What do I have to, what's the plan to make this thing happen? How do I get the goal how do I get the relationship that I want with this guy? Well, that's still masculine thinking. We have to shift you into feminine feeling, which is about who you're being, getting you back to your core and operating from that place to where a lot of the things we teach you just will come naturally. And so hopefully that's helpful to you, Mighty One, in a new perspective to feel differently about that. And JJ said, I recently decided I don't like how it's making me feel, giving him a deadline to decide if he's open to marriage. So I recently recanted everything. I told him to do him. He was shocked. Yeah, that's fine, because of course you can't control him. He's going to do whatever he's going to do anyways. So I don't believe in giving a man an ultimatum. However, you should have the ability to walk away. You should still have the ability to walk away, where if you're in a relationship for, let's say, the next 90 days, if you use our 90-day challenge and he hasn't shifted, he's not even getting closer to that. He's not putting in effort to be in his healthy masculine to make you happy, regardless of whether it's marriage or what the label is. We want to look for, is he actually showing care for your heart? Is he giving you those feelings of security and safety? If he's not, then yes, you should be willing to walk away. And then at that point, he would be very clear why you're walking away, because of how you've shared your heart and your feelings, most importantly, your emotions that you've shared with him. And then he just wasn't capable to give you what you need, because he's either a broken man or he doesn't have any care for your heart. So I'm not telling you to just stay endlessly in a relationship where a man's not meeting your needs or not trying to meet your needs, or potentially even being abusive, because that's horrible and that's bad for you. You should be able and willing to walk away, because that's ultimately how you hold your value as a woman. but you got to give it some time. You have to give it a real shot and use what we're teaching you here and what we'll walk you through with our 90-day challenge and our coaching programs and whatnot, which will really help you so that you're not just leaving it on the table. You're not just throwing away a potentially good relationship when you didn't have the right tools, you didn't have the right strategy customized for you to really make it a great relationship. So yes, yes and no, I would say, JJ. Like, yes, you should let go of the outcome and detach and let him be his own man, but you should also still share your feelings and have these conversations with him in the right way, and then watch his behavior over time in the next 90 days with the other aspects that we can help you with to see how he shifts. And then at that point, make a decision whether this is the right relationship for you or not. Not trying to change him. It's about you. It's about your desires. He's going to be whoever whoever he's going to be. And then you either decide you're going to move on and you're okay with that and you stay. That's your decision at that point. All right. And then we had another question here. I met this guy online. I found out he was a scammer. I ended the relationship with him. How do you get over someone who played you? I have tried every way, but still thinking about him. Yeah, so what scammers do, Susan, is they create a fantasy. They create a fantasy for you that's ideal. And just like a romance novel, where you're reading this beautiful story and this perfect man who is texting you every day, who's checking in with you, who's showing care for your heart, who is maybe in some ways exciting, adventurous, flirty. Maybe he sparked some sexual passion with you as well. You had some conversations and you developed a strong attachment to him because he was representing a fantasy, even though he wasn't real. It was maybe AI, or it was some scammer in a call center somewhere, or in a, some building somewhere in some random country. And you have to just, first off, forgive yourself. Like I've mentioned several times in this training, forgive yourself for getting caught in this scam or in this situation and wanting to believe that it was real, because there's something beautiful about that there's a part in you that wants to believe. There's a part of you that wants to have that fantasy, who wants to have that in your life, which is okay. That's beautiful. Like, don't set aside your dreams. Don't set aside your desires and your fantasies for what you actually want. Like, that's beautiful. Now what we're helping you with is just to get the intuition, the connection to your core, the realizations and the knowledge to know when a man is being authentic with you or not, and when a situation is real or not. And there's many tools with that. We don't have to go into that of how to identify a scammer and how to get out of a situation like that. But now it's about forgiving yourself for having gotten to that situation, and also forgiving him. This is probably a guy who lives in a poor area, who's just trying to make money to provide for his family or whatever he's doing, even though it's very unethical and evil, really, because billions of dollars are scammed from women every year, unfortunately, who are falling for these things. And so to forgive yourself, forgive him, and now move on, being much more empowered. And your question really here is, how do you let go of that? Well, the way you move on from it is to realize that you can still have that. So whether or not, just because you can't have that fantasy with him doesn't mean you can't still have that fantasy with somebody, something close to that. The desire, I would say, because fantasy by nature sounds like it's not real, but the desires that you have in your heart, there's some man out there who is going to provide that for you authentically. And to believe that for yourself, and to believe that you will attract that, and to stay focused on that you deserve it, that you will have it, that it's coming, that's going to help you to let go of this whole situation and to focus on who you're becoming now, and investing into yourself now, and doing the coaching and getting the education that you need now to create that in your life, so that you can have an amazing life with that authentically in your world. Maybe you need to take our Magnetic Feminine online dating course as well, so that you can quickly attract that healthy masculine man into your life, and while using all the other principles that we give you here. But that's how you're going to shift it, and that's how you'll move on, as well as all the other things we talked about in this training today, because I give you a lot of other tools and principles to help you let go and be free. Let it go. Let it go. You're not going to hold back anymore. You're not holding on anymore. You are going to be free to be an empowered, beautiful, amazing woman and have that in your life authentically. And that's what we're going to help you with. So hope that it helps, Susan. And we believe in you, and we'll help you to get there. Just know that it's coming authentically for you soon, and that you no longer have to believe in a fantasy, but you can have it for real. And then JJ said, thank you so much. Your psychology is spot on. And Susan said, thank you for that. So awesome. Well, hope this was helpful for today. And if you haven't yet, again, if you've learned a lot, you want to take this to the next level, get advanced principles, get my personal custom coaching for your situation, as well as our team of experts and the other tools that we have, our advanced courses. It all starts with our Magnetize Your Man free quiz, which again, you can get by clicking the link in the description or the comments below. Or you can also go to our website, magnetizeyourman.com. Be willing to invest in yourself. Be willing to take your life to the next level. Put in the time, put in the energy, and get the foundation really set. Like you're learning a new language here. You're learning a new dance, so that you can have it for the rest of your life. It'll become second nature for you. We just got to get you on track and make sure that we uncover the blind spots and the little ways that you may still be subtly in your masculine behavior, subtly pushing men away, or doing the quote unquote wrong things because you're not fully connected to your feminine core yet. And then life will become simple, fun, and easy for you. So take care, much love, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye-bye.